The sky above Alaris was not blue anymore. It was a dirty gray, filled with smoke, fire, and broken metal that fell from the ruined ships in orbit. The ground shook again as another explosion hit the far side of the capital city. Buildings that were once tall and bright now lay in pieces, and the streets were covered in ash and dust. Deep under the city, in an old emergency bunker, a young Alarian technician named Sarah sat at a console. Her thin hands moved quickly over glowing symbols, trying to keep the last transmitter alive. The machine was old and damaged, but it was the only link they still had to the stars. "Power is dropping again," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "If we lose this generator, the signal dies." Behind her, Counselor Lyran stood with his arms folded, eyes fixed on the screen that showed the sky above them. Little icons marked the Varrock ships. There were many of them, circling Alaris like hunters. "How long do we have?" Lyran asked quietly. Sarah checked the readings. "Maybe an hour before the shields fail," she answered. "Less if they focus on our sector." Lyran looked tired. His dark eyes had seen too much loss. The Varrock Dominion had arrived only a few months ago, but in that short time they had broken almost everything. They destroyed the Illyrian fleet in a single battle. They burned their shipyards, shattered their orbital stations, and took their outer colonies. Now they were finishing what they had started. In the corner of the room, an older Illyrian scientist named Marin was working with a smaller console. His longer white frills were tied back, and his hands shook from age, but his eyes were still sharp. "We sent our pleas to every major power," Lyran said. "Every one of them. No one has answered." "They heard us," Marin replied without looking up. "They just did not care." That was the painful truth. Sarah knew it too. The big empires had once traded with Alaris when times were good. They liked Alarian art, Alarian crystals, and Alarian soft technologies. But when the Varrock came, Alaris became a risk, not a partner. Helping them meant war with the Varrock. No one wanted that. Sarah bit her lip. Her fingers hovered over the controls for a moment. Her heart felt heavy, but there was still something she had not tried. "I can widen the range," she said. "I can push the signal beyond the normal routes." Lyran frowned. "Beyond known space? There is nothing out there but uncharted systems and hazards." Marin finally turned around. There was a strange light in his eyes. "Not nothing," he said. "There is the legend." Sarah glanced at him. She had heard him talk about the legend before, but the others always laughed. "Not this again," Lyran muttered. "Old tales will not save us." Marin walked closer, leaning on the edge of Sarah's console. "Do you have a better idea?" he asked softly. Lyran fell silent. Sarah watched the two men, then spoke. "Tell me again," she said to Marin. "Tell me about the legend. We do not have much time." Marin nodded. He looked at the ceiling as if he could see through the rock and metal to the stars beyond. "Long ago," he began, "before you were born, explorers charted the borders of this region. They found a sector with harsh radiation, unstable stars, and wild, dangerous worlds. Most species avoid it. They call it the Death Sector. But some say there is a planet there, a true death world, that should not support complex life." Sarah swallowed. "But it does?" "That is the rumor," Marin said. "They say a strange species lives there, a species that grew strong on a world full of storms and danger. Some think it is only a story. Others think this species is real but chooses to stay hidden, far from the easy comfort of the main trade routes." Lyran shook his head. "And you want us to call them? A nameless species from a death world? Even if they exist, why would they help us?" Marin gave a sad smile. "Why would anyone else?" he asked. "Look around you, Lyran. The great empires have abandoned us. The Varrock think they already own us. If there is even a small chance this Deathworld species hears us, is it not worth trying?" The bunker shook again, stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere, metal screamed and bent under pressure. An alarm lit up on the wall. One of the other technicians shouted that the outer shield ring had collapsed. Another area of the city was gone. Sarah felt time closing in on them. She turned back to her console. Her hands did not feel weak anymore. They felt steady. "I can boost the signal," she said. "I can aim it into the death sector." Lyron stared at the main display, watching new red icons appear as more Varuk ships moved into attack positions. He clenched his fists, eyes shining with anger and fear. "If we send that signal," he said quietly, "we may call in something worse than the Varuk." Marin stepped beside him. "Or we may call someone who can stand against them," he said. "We have nothing left, Lyron. Let the young try. If we fall reaching, not kneeling." Sarah's heart beat fast as she waited. She knew the choice was not hers, but she also knew she would do it anyway if they took too long. The thought scared her, but it was the truth. Finally, Lyron let out a long breath. "Do it," he said. "Send the call." Sarah nodded. She opened a new screen, rewriting the route paths manually. She pushed the broadcast power to the maximum the old generator could handle. "This will burn the transmitter," she warned. "After this, we will not be able to send anything else." "Then make it count," Marin said. Sarah closed her eyes for a second, then began to compose the message. She spoke slowly, clearly, letting the system record and encode her words. "This is Sarah of Alaris," she said. "Our world is under attack by the Varuk Dominion. Our cities are burning. Our people are dying. We asked for help from the galaxy, but no one came. If anyone hears this, anyone at all, we beg you, please help us." Her voice broke on the last word. She paused, then forced herself to continue. "We are peaceful people," she added. "We do not have much to offer, but we will remember you. We will stand with you if we survive. Please, we do not want to die forgotten." She finished the recording and sent it to the buffer. The console confirmed the message and showed the energy curve for the transmission. It was not a clean signal. It flickered at the edges, cut by interference and the damage to their systems. But it might still reach someone. "Ready," Sarah said. Lyron and Marin stood behind her. Other technicians in the bunker turned to watch. For a moment, the war outside seemed far away, as every eye focused on the single blinking light. Sarah pressed the send command. The transmitter roared to life. The bunker lights dimmed as power flowed into the old system. A deep hum filled the air, and the screen showed the signal stretching out into the dark, riding on an extended frequency beam toward unknown space. The generator protested with a sharp rise in temperature. Warning marks flashed red. "Hold together," Sarah whispered to the machine. "Just a little longer." The signal hit its full range. The system reported maximum broadcast. Tiny graphs showed it passing the borders of mapped territory, reaching into the death sector that normal ships avoided. Then the transmitter died with a sharp crack and a bright spark. The console went dark for a second before restarting in low power mode. The main antenna was gone. They would not send another call. "It is done," Sarah said softly. In the silence that followed, that fact settled over them like a heavy cloth. They had reached as far as they could. Now they could only wait. Outside, the war continued. The Varuk ships kept firing, tearing into the planet's remaining defenses. The bunker's screens showed entire districts being reduced to ash. Illyrian defense platforms tried to fight back but were outnumbered and outgunned. Time passed. Minutes felt like hours. At one point, Lyron walked to another console and spoke with the last surface command. When he turned back, his expression was worse than before. "They are talking about surrender," he said. "The Varuk have offered terms, work camps, restricted zones. Forced labor. They promised to leave some of our cities standing if we submit. Sarah felt sick. Marin's face twisted with anger. Those are not terms, Marin said. Those are chains. Lyran looked down. But chains are better than extinction, he said quietly. Sarah wanted to shout that he was wrong, but she understood his fear. She was afraid too. She did not want to die. She thought about her family, about the small house they once had near the Crystal Gardens, and she wondered if it even existed anymore. The bunker shook again, harder this time. One of the side walls cracked and dust filled the air. People coughed and covered their mouths. Sarah went back to her console and stared at the empty status lines. The transmitter showed as destroyed. No incoming signals, no outgoing signals, just silence and the distant roar of war. She did not know how long she sat there, watching the dead screen. Her thoughts wandered. She imagined the signal flying alone through cold space, passing dead rocks and silent stars, never reaching any ears. The idea hurt so much that her eyes filled with tears. Then, as she wiped her face, a tiny light blinked at the edge of the display. At first, she thought it was a glitch. The system was damaged after all, but the light blinked again. The console made a soft sound, one she had not heard in days. "Incoming transmission," the machine said in its flat voice. Sarah's heart jumped. "Lyran," she called. "Marin, come here. We are getting a signal." "That is impossible," Lyran said, but he rushed over anyway. Marin followed, almost running despite his age. Sarah opened the channel. Strange symbols spilled across the screen, fast and complex. The language filter struggled to keep up, adding more processing threads as it tried to shape the unknown data into something they could understand. "It is not Varrock," Marin said. "Their code looks different." "It is not any known ally either," Sarah added. "The pattern is new. I have never seen it before." The translator gave an error, adjusted, then tried again. Slowly, the symbols changed into something close to standard trade speech. A voice came through the speakers, calm and clear, with a strange rhythm. "This is Captain Ethan Cole of the human ship Avalon," the voice said. "We received your distress call. We see that your world is under attack by the Varrock Dominion. We are en route to your location." Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. She had never heard of humans before. Lyran looked just as shocked. "Humans?" he repeated. "What is that?" Marin stepped back, eyes wide. "They answered," he whispered. "The Deathworlders answered." The voice on the speaker continued. "Transmission from Alaris," Ethan said. "This channel is open. If you can hear me, respond. We need details on your situation and enemy positions." Sarah's body moved before her mind could catch up. She tapped the response key and leaned toward the pickup. "This is Sarah of Alaris," she said. "We hear you. I repeat, we hear you. The Varrock are in orbit and on the ground. We have almost no defenses left." There was a pause, then Ethan spoke again. "Understood, Sarah. Our ship is in approach. We will arrive in your system soon. Hold on as long as you can." Lyran leaned close to the pickup. "Captain Ethan," he said, his voice formal. "This is Counselor Lyran of Alaris. We are grateful, but we do not understand. Why are you helping us? Who are you?" For a moment there was only the hum of static. Then Ethan replied. "We are humans," he said simply. "We come from a world called Earth. Your signal reached us. You asked for help. No one else answered. That is enough." Marin closed his eyes. The old legend echoed in his mind. "Earth," he repeated softly. "The death world." Sarah felt a chill. "Are you sure?" she asked him quietly. "Is it really them?" Marin nodded slowly. "If they can live on a death world and still speak like that, then yes, it must be." On the main screen, the image of the sky shifted to a live tactical view. For the first time, a new icon appeared at the edge of the system. A small, fast ship entering from an angle others would never use. cutting through an unstable region that normal pilots avoided. The label under the icon flickered as their system tried to read it, then settled on one word: Avalon. Sarah stared at it, feeling a strange mix of fear and hope. Somewhere out there, past the clouds of fire and the Varrock destroyers, a ship from a death world was coming to stand between them and extinction. Lyran looked at Marin, then at Sarah. "Maybe chains are not our only choice," he said softly. Marin gave him a tired smile. "Not today," he answered. The bunker shook again as the war continued above, but this time, beneath the fear, there was something else in the room. It was small and fragile, but it burned brighter than the fires in the sky. It was hope. The Avalon moved through space with quiet precision. Its engines glowed softly, cutting through the void like a knife. Inside, the crew worked in calm efficiency, each member knowing their role and trusting the others completely. Captain Ethan Cole stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic map of Alaris. Red blips dotted the planet's orbit, marking Varrock warships that had cut through the Illyrian defenses. He traced the paths of their attack runs with a finger. "We are outnumbered," said First Officer Laura Price. She leaned over the console, her brown hair tied back in a practical knot. "By a lot. But the Varrock don't know we are coming." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. That is our advantage. Speed, surprise, and smart tactics. We strike fast, hit their weak points, and disappear before they can respond." Engineer Ryan Carter adjusted some controls on the engine panel. "I've pushed the reactors close to their limit. We'll have more burst power than usual for the approach, but we need to be careful. One miscalculation and we fry ourselves before even reaching orbit." Ethan smiled faintly. "I trust your judgment, Ryan. That burst is what will let us surprise them." In the med bay, Dr. Olivia Brooks checked medical supplies and adjusted triage stations for rapid response. "We may face casualties," she said, speaking to the small group of human medics. "We prepare for the worst and hope for the best." On the deck below, Mason Hill drilled the Marine squad. Each soldier moved with deadly precision, checking weapons and coordinating movement. "Remember," he told them, "we don't fight like most species. We think, we adapt, we survive. They won't see us coming, and we won't give them a chance to understand what hits them." The Avalon dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Alaris. The planet below was scarred and burning, but alive. Ethan felt the weight of the coming battle pressing on him, but he did not show it. He only adjusted the bridge display and gave his orders. "Scan the planet," he said. "Give me positions of Varrock forces and possible landing zones. I want every weak point mapped before we move in." The sensors hummed as data flooded the system. Varrock ships patrolled orbit, but gaps existed where the humans could pass through. Closer to the surface, orbital bombardment had left areas of the city exposed. A perfect place for a drop. Laura leaned over the tactical display. "They have control of most of the capital, but there are smaller districts where civilians hide. If we can get in there, we can evacuate some of them." Ryan added, "There are debris fields from destroyed stations in orbit. We can use them for cover. They won't expect anyone to navigate through that safely." Ethan nodded. "Good. We do this clean, quick, and we protect as many lives as possible. The Illyrians may not have weapons left, but they need to survive to fight another day." Mason's Marines loaded into the drop pods, checking weapons, armor, and breathing systems. "We've trained for earth storms, volcanic eruptions, and collapsing buildings," Mason said. "Alaris is nothing we haven't faced before. Stay alert, trust each other. We get in, help civilians, and get out." The drop pods detached from the Avalon, moving silently through the thin clouds of the planet's upper atmosphere. The city below looked like a broken puzzle. Flames and smoke twisted upward, painting the horizon with black and orange. Sarah and Lyran watched the small figures descend on the screens in the bunker. Their hearts beat faster than they had since the Varrock arrived. "They look different," Sarah whispered. "Bigger, stronger. They move like nothing can stop them." Marin nodded, his long white frills trembling slightly. "That is what Deathworlders look like. Their world taught them to survive everything. They are not just soldiers. They are living storms." The pods landed in the outskirts of the capital. Ethan and his team emerged quickly, taking in the city's destruction. Mason led the Marines, moving toward a sector where civilians were hiding in collapsed buildings. Olivia set up medical triage points and began treating minor injuries immediately. Sarah and Lyran approached cautiously. They had never seen humans in person before. The towering figures moved with calm power, and there was a strange confidence in every step. Even in the chaos of battle, they seemed unshakable. "Captain Ethan," Lyran said, bowing slightly. "We are grateful you came." Ethan nodded. "We received your call. We don't leave anyone behind if we can help it. Tell us what we need to know. Where are the civilians? Where are the Varrock forces concentrated?" Sarah and Lyran quickly drew maps and pointed to the positions of hidden families, trapped groups, and remaining Illyrian fighters. Ethan and Laura studied the maps, making notes and adjusting their plans. "Good," Ethan said. "We split into 2 groups. Mason, you take the Marines and evacuate civilians in the south districts. Laura, Olivia, and I will push to the command points. We need to disrupt their control. Ryan, you stay with the ship to support from orbit." The humans moved like shadows through the ruined streets. They did not hesitate as rubble fell around them. Varrock patrols fired on them, but the humans dodged with instincts honed from a lifetime of danger. They moved fast, accurate, and deadly. Sarah watched in awe. One human Marine rolled under a collapsing beam, firing at a Varrock drone, then ran to help a trapped child. Another human ducked behind a burning vehicle and threw a small device. It exploded with a precise flash that disabled enemy sensors. "They are amazing," Sarah said. "No one moves like that. Even our soldiers, they would be dead by now." Marin nodded. "This is what I warned you about. Deathworlders are not just strong. They think in ways no other species can. They turn danger into advantage." Meanwhile, Ethan and Laura reached a Varrock command post. Using small portable devices, they hacked into the communications systems, spreading false signals and disrupting coordination. The Varrock soldiers panicked as reports conflicted. Their once organized forces became chaotic. On the southern front, Mason's Marines escorted groups of civilians to safe zones. Each step was calculated. They used collapsed streets as cover, debris as traps, and their weapons to suppress enemy forces without unnecessary destruction. Sarah communicated with them through the bunker's emergency link. "You don't understand," she said. "We have never seen soldiers like this. They move like the storms in our legends." "Focus on keeping the civilians safe," Mason replied over the comm. "They are counting on us. Humans or not, we survive together." Hours passed as the humans taught the Illyrians quickly. Civilians were instructed to hide, then move, then defend if necessary. The difference in approach shocked the Illyrians. They had always tried to avoid war, relying on shields and diplomacy. Now they learned how to use terrain, stealth, and instinct. At night, the city was a chaotic glow of fire and human lanterns. Humans patrolled in small squads, protecting civilians and disabling enemy units. Ethan moved carefully through the streets, checking reports from Mason and Laura. Sarah followed closely, still in awe. "How do you do this?" she asked quietly. "How do you stay calm when everything is falling apart?" Ethan looked at her and smiled faintly. "We learned early," he said. "Our world forced us to survive storms, predators, and everything else. We never had the luxury to panic. When danger comes, we act. That is all." Marin watched from the bunker monitors, a proud light in his eyes. They do not fight like any species I have seen. They are perfect for what we need. By dawn, the southern districts were mostly cleared. Civilians were safe in temporary shelters set up by Olivia and her team. Minor injuries were treated, and morale was rising. Even the oldest and most frightened Illyrians felt hope for the first time in months. Varuk's soldiers, confused and demoralized by the humans' unorthodox methods, began to retreat from certain sectors. Their commander tried to respond, but every tactic the humans anticipated. Their ships and ground units were disrupted by hacks, false signals, and human precision attacks. Ethan called a brief meeting with his team in a ruined plaza. "This is only the beginning," he said. "The Varrock will respond. They will try to strike back. We need to hold what we can and teach the Illyrians everything they need to survive. Every person we save makes a difference." Laura nodded. "And we have the element of surprise. They don't understand us. We need to use it as long as possible." Mason checked weapons and gear. "The Illyrians are starting to trust us. They follow instructions. That is rare. That alone will give them an edge they never had before." Sarah approached, holding maps of remaining civilian hideouts. "Captain, there are still dozens of families trapped. Can we reach them?" Ethan studied the maps. "Yes. Mason, you take a small squad. Laura and I will take another. Ryan, support from orbit. Olivia, prepare med stations." The humans moved again, swift and deliberate. They were no longer just rescuers. They were teachers, fighters, and protectors all at once. The Illyrians began to fight differently, inspired by the humans. They no longer fled at the first sign of danger. They learned to hide, strike, and survive. Each small victory gave them more courage. Above them, the Varrock commander received reports of unknown attackers who were too fast, too smart, and too strong. Panic began to spread through the ranks. For the first time, the Varrock feared the species they had thought was weak and helpless. In the bunker, Sarah turned to Marin and Lyran. "They are real," she said softly. "The Deathworlders are real, and they came for us." Marin nodded, his eyes shining. "And they chose to fight for Alaris." Lyran looked at the screens, seeing the human squads moving like storms through the ruined city. "We are not alone anymore," he whispered. "Maybe we can survive this." The sun rose over the burning city, smoke mixed with the soft light, painting the ruins in shades of red and gold. Among the rubble, humans and Illyrians worked together. Families were carried to safety. Soldiers held the line. Machines whirred as systems were repaired and civilians protected. For the first time in months, hope walked openly in the streets of Alaris. And far above, the Avalon waited, ready for the next move. The humans had come, and the galaxy was about to see what Deathworlders could do. The city was quiet for only a few hours. Smoke still rose from ruins, and fires burned in corners where no one could reach them. But the Illyrians had hope now. They moved among the humans, learning, listening, and slowly beginning to act differently. Captain Ethan Cole stood on a low hill overlooking the city. Beside him, First Officer Laura Price scanned the streets below through a portable sensor device. "The Varrock are regrouping," she said. "They are cautious now, but they will try to strike again soon. They don't understand us yet, but they will adapt quickly if we don't keep the pressure." Ethan nodded. "Then we keep moving. We stay unpredictable. We teach the Illyrians, and we make sure the Varrock never feels safe." Down below, Mason Hill led a team of human marines through the debris-filled streets. They moved carefully, scanning for Varrock patrols and guiding small groups of civilians who had survived the attacks. The humans were precise, confident, and calm, even when buildings collapsed around them. "Stay low," Mason whispered to the Illyrian fighters beside him. "Use cover. Don't fight if you don't have to. When you do fight, make it count." One of the Illyrians, a young fighter named Jaro, nodded nervously. "We have never seen combat like this," he said. "They move like the wind, and they do not hesitate. How can we match them?" "You won't match them," Mason said quietly. "You learn from them. Pay attention, watch, copy. That is how you survive." Meanwhile, Sarah worked in the bunker with Marin and Lyran, coordinating communications between human squads and Alarian resistance cells. Using damaged networks, they managed to pass messages and warnings across the city. Every success gave the survivors a little more confidence. "They trust us," Sarah whispered. "They really trust us." Marin nodded. "And that trust will make them strong. Humans do not just fight, they teach. That is what makes them dangerous to an enemy and powerful to those they protect." In orbit, Ryan Carter prepared support strikes from the Avalon. He monitored Varuk ship movements and calculated trajectories for precision hits. "We can disable their ships one by one if we hit the weak points," he said to Olivia over the comm. "But we have to act fast." Olivia checked her med stations below, already treating small injuries from the first rescue missions. "I'll be ready for anyone we bring down," she said. "Humans or Illyrians, it doesn't matter. Everyone matters." Ethan and Laura moved into the heart of the ruined city. Buildings had fallen, leaving open streets and jagged rubble. They had to be careful. The Varrock could be hiding anywhere, waiting for an easy target. "Keep your eyes open," Ethan said. "They are scared now, but they are dangerous. They will use whatever they can to trap us." As they advanced, they came across a small group of civilians trapped under collapsed metal frames. Dust filled the air, and smoke burned their eyes. Ethan quickly assessed the situation. He and Laura worked together, using portable tools to lift heavy debris. Mason and his Marines helped guide frightened Illyrians out of danger. When the last person was safe, Ethan looked at the group. They were scared, but alive. That was all that mattered. Survival was the first lesson, and humans understood that deeply. The Varrock commander, far above in orbit, watched reports with growing frustration. Unknown attackers were moving through his city with precision, avoiding traps, rescuing civilians, and striking key points. His soldiers were confused and demoralized. "They are not ordinary," the commander said. "We expected chaos and fear. Instead, they fight calmly. They coordinate. They survive everything we throw at them." He did not know what he was facing. Humans trained by a death world. Creatures who had survived storms, predators, fire, and war on their home planet. These beings turned danger into advantage. On the ground, the humans and Illyrians prepared for another strike. Ethan gathered his team in a temporary shelter. "We have taught the basics, but now we move deeper. We take control of supply points and communication hubs. That will weaken the Varrock even more. Sarah, can your network reach those sectors?" "Yes," she said. "It's slow, but we can guide squads to each target." "Good. Mason, your team takes the southern hub. Laura, Olivia, and I take the northern hub. Move fast, hit hard, and disappear before they can respond. Ryan, cover us from orbit. Everyone else, stay ready." The squads split up. Mason led the southern group through narrow streets, avoiding broken Varrock patrols. They set up small traps using debris and energy nets, creating zones where the enemy could not pass without risk. The Illyrians learned quickly, copying every move. Up north, Ethan and Laura approached a damaged Varrock control post. They crouched behind a wall as a Varrock patrol moved past. With small, precise devices, they disabled the patrol's sensors. The humans moved in silently, planting disruption devices that would scramble communications and prevent reinforcements from coordinating. In the shelter, Olivia treated injured Illyrians and civilians. "You need to stay calm," she told them. "We are here. You are safe with us." Sarah watched through cameras and comms. She could see the city slowly change. People moved with purpose, hiding when necessary, striking when needed. The humans had taught them to survive, to fight smart, and to believe they could. Hours passed, and the first major counterattack came. Varrock soldiers rushed into the southern districts, trying to reclaim lost ground. Mason and his Marines met them with ambushes, using debris and ruins as weapons. They moved fast, striking from unexpected angles and retreating before the Varrock could regroup. The Illyrians followed their lead. Jaro, the young fighter, charged from cover, striking at a Varrock soldier with a handheld weapon he had never used before. He missed at first, but Mason caught his arm and guided the strike. The second attempt was successful. "You see," Mason said quietly, "you learn fast. That is why humans survive. We teach, and you copy. Now you are a fighter, not just a victim." Meanwhile, Ethan and Laura continued to the northern hub. Varrock engineers tried to repair communication systems, but the humans were faster. Within minutes, they had disabled the hub completely, cutting off a large portion of the Varrock forces from each other. Ryan's orbital strikes targeted Varrock ships in orbit. With careful calculations, he disabled 2 frigates and damaged a cruiser. The explosions were precise, causing minimal debris but maximum confusion. Varrock's sensors went into overload, and the fleet commander was forced to order a retreat from the city. By nightfall, the humans regrouped in the city center. Fires still burned, but the streets were safer. Civilians were moved to temporary shelters, and the Illyrian fighters were becoming more confident. They had learned movement, cover, and timing from the humans. They had learned that fear could be controlled and used as energy rather than weakness. Ethan surveyed the area. "We are making progress," he said, "but the Varrock will come back. They will adapt. We must keep teaching, keep training, and keep moving." Laura nodded. "The Illyrians are learning quickly. They are stronger than we expected." Mason cleaned his weapon while watching the street below. "They are brave, and they have something the Varrock don't: the will to survive and the knowledge we give them. That is dangerous for an enemy." In the bunker, Sarah and Marin watched screens showing both humans and Illyrians working together. Sarah felt hope rising in her chest. "I never thought we would see this," she said. "They are real, they are helping us, and they are teaching us how to fight." Marin smiled, though his face was lined with worry. "Humans are different," he said. "They take the impossible and make it possible. That is why they survive where others fail. That is why the Varrock fear them now." The night was filled with small battles. Humans led strikes against remaining Varrock forces, disabling supply points and capturing key positions. Illyrians followed, their confidence growing with each success. Ethan returned to the temporary command point and looked at the map. "The city is not fully safe," he said, "but we have changed the game. The Varrock don't know what they are facing. They see humans, but they don't understand our tactics. That gives us time to prepare for the next attack." Sarah approached him. "Captain, how do you do it? How do you stay calm in all this?" Ethan smiled faintly. "We don't panic, because we have no choice. We survive, and we help others survive. That is all. Every time we act, we win a small victory. Add enough small victories, and you change the war." Marin stepped forward. "You are teaching them more than fighting. You are teaching hope. That is the greatest weapon of all." Above them, the Varrock fleet regrouped, unaware that their communications were compromised. The human presence had turned the tide. Small groups of Varrock soldiers now moved with fear in their eyes. They had expected to crush the city easily, but instead they faced strange, deadly, unpredictable warriors. Ethan looked at the city below and saw humans and Illyrians working together. Families moved with purpose, streets were cleared of enemy patrols, and barricades were placed strategically. "The next battle will come," he said quietly. "We must be ready." But the Illyrians are no longer helpless. They have learned to fight, to survive, and to hope. That is the first step toward victory. Sarah watched, feeling something she had not felt in months. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with awe and hope. The humans had not only saved lives, they had changed the hearts and minds of the people. Marin nodded beside her. They came from a death world, and they bring life to ours. That is why the legends called them powerful. That is why the Varrock fear them. They are the storm no enemy can control. And far above, in orbit, the Avalon waited. Engines glowing softly, ready for the next challenge. The humans were not done. They would continue to fight, to teach, and to protect. The battle for Alaris was far from over. But for the first time in months, hope walked openly through the streets. The city was alive. The humans had arrived, and the Varrock would learn what it meant to face Deathworlders.